Drones has a character design problem. Before people come after me, I love Murder Drones with a passion. This is not me hating on the show, and keep in mind that these are my personal opinions. Let me explain what I mean. I touched on this briefly in a short discussing how the characters, including fan-made OCs, have same face syndrome, and that this makes characters hard to tell apart, which many people responded saying something along the lines of they're mass-produced robots, that's the point. I'm not disagreeing with these people, I just think the point I was getting at was lost without breaking it down, so that's why I'm back here today with this long-form video. To clarify, I'm well aware that having the same head shape and overall body shape for most of the characters is just part of the story, and it's not the problem by itself. It is perfectly fine to have characters with the same base model, as we have seen by shows done by Hasbro, for example, like My Little Pony, where characters are essentially recolors with different hair to save time and resources. JC Jensen mass-produced worker drones, so it's actually a good thing that they have the same base models due to the narrative. That is a good aspect of the character design. Let me go over a few other things about the character designs that I personally believe were good choices. Firstly, the disassembly drones, still resembling worker drones to some degree, is an absolutely phenomenal choice. It really illustrates the fact they're essentially modded worker drones very well. They not only took the domestic, visually friendly shapes the worker drones have, but they combined them with the dangerous and hostile appearances, such as fangs, blades, and uncanny expression usage to really drive the point home that the disassembly drones are something not normal. Their design makes you feel threatened just looking at it, while also looking familiar and cute. Secondly, the worker drones being able to have different display colors is a great choice to differentiate them. You can tell most of the worker drones apart easily despite them having the same or similar base models. That combined with different expressions the characters use and their unique fashion choices, it really gives you a sense of individuality between them all despite being mass-produced worker drones. Now let's get into the drawbacks. As I said before, having the same base model is good in terms of the narrative, but let's talk about character design for a moment here. Body structure, color palette, facial features, hairstyle, and silhouette are all features you may at some point in your life be told you want to make sure are distinct for each and every character in a show. However, too many similarities in these categories make characters hard to tell apart and can result in confusion amongst your audience. Characters can share these individual features and still be recognizable between one another. It's when you have multiple of those boxes checked that it starts having issues. It's important to keep in mind that character design is largely subjective and that a creator may have any number of reasons why they made a character look a certain way, so critiques about it should be taken with a grain of salt. Always. Character design should largely be judged based on the narrative it is for in order to determine if any of these factors I listed before are actually a problem. With the disassembly drones, we have at least 3 different flags of potentially poor character design. Body structure, color palette, and facial features are all the same between them. It's important to note that they do have distinct silhouettes and hairstyles, though, as you can't just point out a potential flaw and say it's automatically bad. N, V, and J all have some distinguishing features. So what's the big deal? Well, when you have characters who all look roughly the same and have the same coloring, the same face shape, and dark lighting, you have a recipe for, I have no idea who that is. The disassembly drones are supposed to look uniform as they're controlled by Sin, and even if they had just kept V's scarf, they'd be much easier to tell apart with that hint of red. I hesitate to say this is bad character design because it serves a purpose, but it is a problem. To touch on how fans view them, there is quite a lot of fan art out there, my own included, but depending on the artist, the characters wear different clothes, have different hair colors, and different hairstyles, because this is a 3D show being drawn in 2D by fans. And no one can see what their clothes actually look like because of the dark lighting in the show. And doesn't have a belt buckle in the first episode, by the way, but you didn't notice that, did you? You can also barely tell N and V apart in a lot of fan art, so I genuinely will have to spend like 2 minutes trying to figure out if a character is N or V when looking at fan comics. It's not fun. Every fandom has fan designs and the like, But genuinely, it's more like everyone has their own personal takes on how the characters look, because we're all feeling like we're looking at blurry photographs of the disassembly drones and trying to figure out what their clothing even looks like. Canon-compliant OC designs just get the "oh my gosh, it's N" treatment every single time you post art of them, because if you make an OC that actually looks like how a disassembly drone is supposed to canonically look, no one can tell it's not N, V, or J. So, I've honestly just given up on correcting people in my comments. TLDR is all disassembly drones have been reduced to N. See you all next time.